Hi hello, welcome to our channel. Remember, it all began in the US last week. Two American banks collapsed, the Silicon Valley Bank and the Signature Bank, and it's not over yet. One more American bank could be on the brink. It's called the First Republic Bank. It is based in San Francisco. It is worth almost $6 billion. The bank has around 6,300 employees and several high-profile customers, but First Republic may not have enough money. Leading ratings agencies have downgraded this bank. We're talking about SP Global and Fitch. They have downgraded the bank and now rate it as junk. You may ask why was the bank tagged as junk? Same reason as before. Ratings agencies feel the bank could face a cash crunch, that depositors would want to pull their money out and the bank may not have enough to give them, which is exactly what happened at the Silicon Valley Bank. There was a bank run. Depositors rushed to withdraw cash. The bank was not liquid enough, meaning it did not have enough free cash. That's because the deposits were tied up in government bonds and their value had decreased. With First Republic, we could see a repeat of this. Experts are flashing the same warning signs again. First Republic stock price has fluctuated in the past week. At one point it was down by over 60%. Reports say First Republic is now looking at its options. It could try to raise cash to improve liquidity. It could even look to sell the bank, and these are extreme measures. They give an indication of how much trouble the bank could be in, and this may not be a unique case. First Republic Bank is not the first canary in the mine, but there are canaries that are now feed up, and those include things like Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, and lots of worry about Credit Suisse, the storage financial institution. Let me rephrase what he's saying. There are many banks in trouble. You've already told you, so who else is in trouble? Credit ratings agency Moody's has released a list. It includes Western Alliance Bancorp, Intrust Financial Corp, UMB Financial Corp, Zions Bancorp, and Comerica Inc. All these banks are said to be unhealthy. What is their problem? Uninsured deposits of customers and unrealized losses, meaning potential losses. They're still on the books of these banks, and this is just one list. The crisis could be bigger than it appears right now, and I'll tell you why I say this. American banks recently made some filings, and this is what they show. Major banks have taken some serious losses. I have some numbers. 160 major American banks have lost at least $206 billion. These are banks with more than $5 billion in assets. Every bank on this list has assets worth over $5 billion. Again, these are unrealized losses, meaning the banks continue to own these loss-making assets. They haven't been sold yet, but their value has gone down. So if they're sold today, the banks will suffer a loss. And how did these losses happen? Courtesy the US government. These are mostly government securities, US treasuries. We're talking about these are bonds that the government issues. We've discussed this before on the show. Banks park their cash deposits in government bonds. It is considered a safe investment. The calculation is that when you sell these bonds, you will make more money, but in this case the value of US government bonds has gone down. How? Last year the US Treasury hiked interest rates. They issued new bonds. They offered a higher interest rate, so the old bonds lost their value, and these banks that we're talking about have old bonds. Now they're trading in the red. For some banks like Silicon Valley, the losses were simply too big. Silicon Valley lost almost $2 billion on a single sale. The bank needed this money to pay back depositors. It sold bonds for losses, so other depositors got worried. They came to take their cash. The bank did not have that cash, so it collapsed, and this fall had a cascading effect. America's biggest banks have seen losses. All of them have lost money in US government bonds. Citigroup lost $47 billion, Bank of America $21.2 billion, JP Morgan Chase $17.3 billion, Truist Financial lost $13.6 billion, Wells Fargo $13.4 billion, and US Bancorp $11.4 billion. These losses are as per the last round of filings. The present value of these assets could be different, but the situation is unlikely to have changed significantly, and these are big banks they're talking about. They can take such losses. Smaller ones would not survive something like this. Their fate is yet to be decided. The question is, who's responsible for this crisis? How did this happen? Some experts blame the US Federal Reserve for this. The US Federal Reserve is America's central bank. They say the US Fed has cracked the financial system. The Fed is in a tough position. Bank runs are pretty quick. The Fed has limited tools to deal with inflation, and they've been using a wrecking ball, not a scaffold. Instead of a scalpel, they use a wrecking ball. Sounds a lot like America, and now they're suffering and making the world suffer with them.